Fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
They're saying that he might be back for the start of the playoffs, but their playoff spot isn't secure with the Mariners bearing down on them and the wild card completely in flux. So this is like borderline red alert because the pitching staff has not been good. We have not seen good stuff from Framber Valdez. So Now that the back end of the bullpen is not good, I don't know what to make.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Answer is this. 12-team, 3 wide receiver, you take Jamar Chase. In a 10-team league, though, where you have only 2 wide receivers to start, it's an interesting supply and demand situation with a roster like that. That is where the Bijan number 1 overall maybe comes into play, because you could take Bijan and then turn around. You're still getting 2 number 1 wide receivers in a 10-team league draft.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
The young Goddard angle, too, had the added PR campaign of, like, do you want to take a New York and or a Jersey guy to play a New York Ryder Cup? Like, the crowd juice there is going to be off the charts.
They would love, they would kill for him.
Chris Goddard, like, making a big putt, like, popping the chain to the Bethpage crowd. Are you kidding me? There's some of these guys, I just want to pick them because I want the visual, I want the memory.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Good afternoon. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Happy Monday. First weekend after week 0 of college football. Some very exciting results. We'll get to those in just a minute. Also, finally, a win for a player over on the PGA Tour and a very big signing in the National Football League. Also, Vinny Iyer will be with us from Sporting News. We'll go over the latest in Major League Baseball. Donnie Rightside from the early line will also join us for the final 30 minutes of the show, doing some football and baseball as well. Of course, week 1 of college football begins this week, and you're not going to have to wait till Saturday this week. It all begins on Thursday. And let's get started with the National Football League, a mega contract given out to a wide receiver. Terry McLaurin will go to the first game of the season for the Washington Commanders. Signed 3 years, $96 million. He finally gets his contract extension. Maybe not the length in terms of what he was looking for, but definitely the guaranteed money. Becomes one of the highest paid wide receivers in the National Football League after being Jaden Daniels' number 1 wide receiver last year, and whoever Washington's quarterback has been the last 5, 6, 7 years. He's been really good for them, so good to see that he got paid. Also, the nice story of the weekend had to be Tommy Fleetwood on the PGA Tour, a 16-1 underdog, but let's be honest, he was a bigger underdog than that. This guy was still looking for that huge win on the PGA Tour, and go figure, he gets it and wins the Tour Championship. What an incredible performance. Watching this Friday and Saturday, it kind of felt like there was a shot, and then, of course, everyone was naturally waiting for him to fall apart on Sunday, but he didn't do it. Roared to the crowd after he won, and then spoke to, of course, the media after.
I think it's easy for anybody to say that they are resilient, that they bounce back, that they have fight. It's different when you actually have to prove it. There's different types of mental strength. I've clearly got things wrong in the dire moments of tournaments, and I might have made the odd dodgy decision. I might have put the odd bad swing on it. But I've had to have mental strength in a different way. I've had to be resilient in terms of put myself back up there, get myself back in that position. No matter how many times it doesn't go my way, no matter how many doubts might creep in, think the right things, say the right things to yourself, say the right things outwardly. And I am really pleased that I can be proof that if you do all the right things and you just keep going, that it can happen.
Now over to the National Football League cut-down day. Tomorrow afternoon, every team has to get to 53 for their first game roster. Dallas Cowboys make a move. They released veteran offensive lineman La'el Collins, played from 2015 to 2021, starting 71 games at left tackle and guard for the Cowboys. Then he went to the Bengals, came back to the Cowboys. Looks like that's the potential end of his career. How about a new career for Carson Wentz? Back again. This time signing with the Minnesota Vikings. Gets a one-year deal. He'll back up J.J. McCarthy. Raiders looking for a backup quarterback at this point behind Geno Smith because Aiden O'Connell, who started a number of games for them last year, is going to miss 6 to 8 weeks with a fractured right wrist. Week 0 in college football did deliver lots of close games, including Iowa State defeating Kansas State 24-21. And Hawaii late defeats Stanford after trailing most of the game 23-20. Also, UNLV almost got upset by Idaho State as a 30-point favorite. Rest of the games went as planned. Let's start off this morning hearing from Matt Campbell, head coach at Iowa State, coming up big with a touchdown late to win.
You know, man, the quarterback's yelling at me because he wants to score at the end of the game. So, but you know, it's situational football at its best, and you know, for us to be able to execute, I just told all these guys you were yelling at me at the end of the game to score a touchdown. So, but the. You know, I think that's how you got to win, right? I mean, this is team football. Nobody's going to care how it happened. You got to win the game, and so I think really positive for us. Obviously, great play by Rocco, great play by Carson to extend that, to put us into that situation, and that's kind of why we went for it. We felt like if we had a chance to gain the first down, we could win the football game. So, you know, great execution, and you trust the guy next to you because you know what he stands for.
Meanwhile, the Frank Reich era began in Stanford with a dud. They go to Hawaii and come up short. Naturally, a lot of folks think that Reich will be the eventual long-term head coach for the Cardinal. He's been brought in by Andrew Luck to oversee the ship for the time being. Took it kind of hard with the loss on the island on Saturday.
Okay, just to start out, obviously a tough loss. I give Hawaii credit. They played a tough game, made the plays they needed to make to win the game. You know, we came in off of what I felt like was a very good week of practice, a very good 6 months of preparation, of hard work. And so this hurts, you know, I'm not going to lie, this stings. I know it stings for all of us, especially for the players, all of us coaches. But, you know, we know this, the message really to the team was we put in all that work, not for one game. It's a long season. So we didn't get what we wanted today, but we still have a lot of opportunity to get better and to rectify things, even though we didn't start off how we wanted to today.
One of the marquee games coming up this week begins on Thursday night. Boise State, a rare visit to Florida, takes on USF in Tampa, where they are 6.5-point favorites. Also, some reports state that Michigan's going to name Bryce Underwood as their starting quarterback for the season, and potential All-American running back Jam Miller for the University of Alabama has got a bum shoulder. Will be back, though, for the SEC opener against Georgia. That's late in September the 27th. Bad news for the Philadelphia Phillies as they continue to push for the postseason. Not only will Zach Wheeler miss the rest of this season, there's a chance he could miss some of next season too, and who even knows beyond that. Thoracic outlet syndrome is the diagnosis. He's out for this year, 6 to 8 month recovery. Of course, one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball. There's a chance that, you know, Wheeler could, you know, potentially not be the same pitcher. Most of the pitchers who undergo this surgery, some of them don't come back who they were. So hopefully for Wheeler, that isn't the case, as the Philadelphia Phillies got Aaron Nola back, though, and hopefully for them, he can keep it going. The Red Sox take 3 out of 4 from the Yankees this weekend, dominating most of the games until yesterday. The Yankees took Game 4 7-2. And after the game, needless to say, Aaron Boone not happy with the performance. It looks like at this point, the Yankees will have to battle a lot more than the Red Sox to stay in the playoff picture. Here's Boone after the game.
We'll see. You know, definitely not the weekend we wanted to have, especially coming off a really good road trip, and but a good win, you know, nonetheless. Like, a lot of really good things. I thought Carlos was really good. The defense behind him, a few double plays. Obviously, continuing to add on a little bit. So, not the weekend we wanted, certainly, but excellent to get a win, and try and keep it going.
Yeah, 3 or 4. That's the business we're in, and now we got to turn the page and go to Baltimore. They played well against us last week. We got 4. That's always tough, so just be ready from pitch 1 tomorrow.
Miami wins against Toronto yesterday 5-3, but the Blue Jays in that division in the East take 2 out of 3 from Miami over the weekend. Also, the Royals hit up Jack Flaherty yesterday, 8 runs, 10-8 win over the Tigers. Merrill Kelly, 7 shutout innings. The Rangers defeated the Guardians 5-0. How about the big home run last night from Dalton Rushing? A 3-run home run gave the Dodgers the lead. Freddie Freeman also had a fantastic day with 2 home runs. Dodgers, yeah, they beat the Padres 8-2. Mets can't complete the sweep. They lose 4-3 against Atlanta on Sunday. Giants hanging around, take care of the Brewers. They win 2 out of 3. Helio Ramos with a 2-run single off Tyler McGill with 2 outs in the 9th inning. And also the Cubs beat the Angels 4-3, and they complete a 3-game sweep in California. All right, coming up next, it's time to get into the latest in the National Football League. A little quarterback movement going on. Mean anything in Minnesota bringing Carson Wentz in to back up J.J. McCarthy? We'll ask Vinny Iyer that and a whole lot more. You're watching NewsWire on SportsGrid here on this Monday. We'll be back right after these messages. Don't go away.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
The Young Goddard angle too had the added PR campaign of like, do you want to take a New York and or a Jersey guy to play a New York Ryder Cup? Like the crowd juice there is going to be off the charts.
They would love. They would kill for him.
Chris Goddard like making a big putt, like popping the chain to the Bethpage crowd. Are you kidding me? There's some of these guys I just want to pick them because I want the visual, I want the memory.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
NFL win totals created because of Jimmy Johnson and the Dallas Cowboys. When Jimmy Johnson came into the NFL from the Miami Hurricanes, somebody asked him, hey, how many games do you think they're going to win? I want to bet it. And no one had ever done it before. Unbelievable, huh, Brady? And he said, you know what? Okay, I'm going to come up with a number. And he only came up for a number for the Cowboys. Then he said the phone started ringing.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire. Vinny and I are going to be busy over at Sporting News dissecting all of these trades and cuts that happen over the next 30 hours or so as the NFL's official rosters become official tomorrow afternoon. Vinny, great to have you back here on NewsWire. And the big story of the day in the NFL, Terry McLaurin does get paid. I'm not sure that this was the extension necessarily that he was looking for, but there definitely feels like there was middle ground here. 3 years, $96 million. Vinny, this is hard to like give a Jamar Chase type contract or Jefferson given McLaurin's age, but it feels like both teams settled in a good place.
Yeah, and I think he also realized where the Commanders were at. I mean, they want to win with Jane Daniels. All their moves have been very aggressive, going back to the middle of last season with the Marshawn Lattimore trade. They add a guy that's probably good for this type of team in Von Miller. Laramie Tunsil was a big move as well. So they're all in to try to win the Super Bowl. They were almost there, just losing to the Eagles. So, I mean, they are looking after it, and they don't want to downgrade, right, in any way. So I think he caught them at a good time. He caught himself as a good time, because you look at his touchdowns from last year, career highs. I think there's still more he could do as a receiver overall. When you look just barely passing the 1,000-yard mark last year, there's more things he can do, but we know that he's essential to what they want to do with Jaden Daniels going forward, because, again, they added Deebo Samuel to improve, not to just replace someone here.
Yeah, no doubt. And now Washington looks like all systems go for them going into the regular season. A little bit of a change in Minnesota. Kind of strange here, Vinny. I guess I would ask you this. The Vikings, they've had a really long time to figure out who they wanted as their backup quarterback, and somehow they landed on Carson Wentz in the last 24 hours. Like, it's a little bizarre to me to think that they had all this time with training camp and the offseason. But I suppose maybe we should look at it on the flip side. Should we give credit to their organization to say they really didn't like what they had, and this is the direction that they went? Because other than that, I can't figure this out.
Yeah, they just need a little bit more experience and someone they could lean on if there's going to be something that happens to J.J. McCarthy, or there's any regression with that knee injury. And I think with the guys that they had, I mean, Brett Rippon was looking terrible the other day in the preseason game. And then you had Sam Howell. Look, I didn't think he exactly fit what they want to do. I'm not sure Sam Howell fits anything any team wants to do, but good for them to get something for him. And I think Howell's biggest calling card right now is his mobility and moving around. And being able to run, but that's not the type of Vikings quarterbacks they want with Kevin O'Connell. They want a guy in the pocket, strong, can stand there, can move a little bit, but not necessarily have to take off and run. So I think Carson Wentz more fits that mentality. Keep in mind there was a short cup of coffee with the Rams that he had, and there's a little connection there with Sean McVay and the Kevin O'Connell type of scheme here. So I think they just felt comfortable. We need a little bit more seasoning. And look, if Carson Wentz is good enough for the Chiefs backup and Andy Reid, the Vikings have to say he can pick up their system, and he's a little bit familiar with their system as well. So I think it's just an issue of having a little bit more experience behind McCarthy that they could somewhat feel comfortable with if McCarthy couldn't play a game.
Sounds right. They could have taken Tyler Huntley. He got released by the Browns, has experience as early as last season playing with the Miami Dolphins. They still have Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders. They've said they'd like to keep 4. I guess, Vinny, we'll find out if that's really true come later today or tomorrow. There are some that are skeptical on this, Vinny, saying they think it's only going to be 3. What do you say?
Yeah, they could also go the cheap route and put Kenny Pickett in some kind of injury situation where that would protect him for a while, and then they could keep those other quarterbacks there. So there's ways they can work around it. It'll be interesting also if anyone gets practice squatted out of this group. Not Joe Flacco, but any of the other young quarterbacks, they could do that easily here. So I look at the situation and look, the Browns, they didn't necessarily say, hey, we wanted to get our starting quarterback this year. We wanted to give ourselves some options, explore what we had. And if it doesn't work out, we can tap into the draft next year, which is going to be very strong at quarterback, by the way.
Yeah, definitely. So we know some of those names that are there. Ravens, by the way, favored to win the North. Not a surprise there. Bengals are plus 260, followed by Pittsburgh, and then Cleveland brings up the rear. Do you have them finishing, Vinny, when you do your predictions next week, 1 through 4, just like that?
I would say, yeah, I mean, that's what you're going to see most everywhere, I think. I think the Bengals do have a shot, however, to win the division. You can't discount how good their offense can be. And look, they just had to be decent on defense for that offense to win a lot of games. So it really could come down, per usual, to the Bengals-Ravens matchups that we've seen of late. But the Ravens are just so consistent. There's not a lot of question marks when you look at all the important things, offensive line, quarterback, defense. I mean, everything is there for the Ravens to be consistent. They have a high floor. I think the Bengals have a high ceiling, but they could also come crashing down as a wild card team.
So the 3 issues that are left to be resolved with McLaurin taken care of now is Micah Parsons, who is still holding in, requested a trade. Maybe he's next. We'll see. I've heard no updates whatsoever on Trey Hendrickson. I got to say at this point, not feeling great about that getting done. And then Quinshon Judkins, I suppose Cleveland has to wait to see what the NFL wants to do, right? Before they sign him to any rookie contract. I'm feeling like this week, Vinny, I guess, would it fair to say maybe 1 out of 3 of these gets done?
Yeah, and I was watching a little bit of the Cowboys documentary, The America's Team, on Netflix, and I feel like Jerry Jones is going to dramatically announce the signing of Micah Parsons right before the game. They're in week 1. I mean, that's what he does, right? He waits as long as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I think you learned from Emmitt Smith, don't wait too long, right? Wait a couple weeks, start 0-2. You don't want your team to do that, right? You want to sign your stars before then. He's been a guy that has given in to the stars for better or for worse, right? He's probably had some bad contracts that have handcuffed the rest of his team. But if he has a player he likes, he's going to get the job done. So I think he's most likely to stay. I think Hendrickson's most likely to leave. And Judkins, again, if he doesn't get his thing resolved, I think you might see a surprise cut from the Browns. We just have to see how it goes.
Yeah, no, I mean, they don't want to do that, but I mean, look, if the NFL is going to step in and suspend him for, half a season or something like that, I mean, Vinny, your point is fair. They could just wait on this one until the actual deadline. All right, Vinny, we'll do this for real later in the week or next week. Thanks again for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Greg.
All right, we're creeping in on week 1 of the NFL next Thursday, but we're also getting closer to cut down day. It's a big day in the NFL. You're going to see some very big surprises around the NFL. So we'll hear from Dan Campbell and also John Harbaugh about that. When we return next, you're watching NewsWire on SportsGrid. We'll be right back.
Playing online blackjack and want to try upping your odds? Well, here's a tip. Cheat cards tell you statistics for whether you hit or stand on every move. If you're into stats, this could be your ticket to winning. And it is totally legal. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Giants are probably going to open up 1-5 on the season. So then you start to say, the fans are getting angry. They just want to see Dart. The ownership's like, hey, you know what? Maybe we're going to make the right move with Russ here. But then you have self-preservation mode with the general manager and the head coach where it almost seems like it's inevitable. Midway through the season, it's going to have to be Jackson Dart. Otherwise, what are we doing, Giants?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It should be illegal for Scotty Scheffler to play on the PGA Tour. This guy can't be stopped. Another victory at the BMW Championship. He has a chip on the 17th, which will go down in the history books. 82 feet, landed 60 feet short, and then rolled the rest of the way. Super exciting win again for Scheffler, who is not only the best golfer in the world, he's becoming one of the best golfers of all time.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
It doesn't matter that they're early in the game, late in the game, they're trailing, they're leading. It doesn't matter, garbage time. CeeDee Lamb is the guy, and we saw that even after Dak got hurt last year and Cooper Rush was under center. Targets were going to CeeDee Lamb. And when you can get 9, 10, 12, 15 targets on a game-by-game basis, he's going to rack up fantasy points every single week. Frankly, he underperformed last year.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Get ready because your favorite NFL team may be cutting some players you saw play in the preseason. That's right. Tomorrow is cutdown day, down to 53. We'll hear from a couple of head coaches on that and also hear from a quarterback who you may be familiar with on the Kansas City Chiefs. Time now for the SportsGrid Sound Off. Let's begin in Detroit, where nothing less than a Super Bowl appearance is acceptable. That's for sure. As the Detroit Lions, still uber talented, getting ready to get better ahead of their first game coming up. Believe it or not, that's next week. Here's Dan Campbell, head coach of the Lions, talking about some difficult decisions that need to be made ahead of tomorrow's 53-man roster finalization.
Start with this, number of guys, just respect all the work that they put in since, spring and some guys even longer potentially, that have been here with us. I just appreciate everything that they've given and that they brought to the team, but also themselves, and I told those guys they should be proud of themselves and this will, shake out in the next 72 hours. No matter what happens, they should be proud of themselves and just keep pushing forward. So, that's what this is. It's hard. It's hard this time of year, and you hate it for some of these guys because of what they do. They lay it on the line. As far as the game, put a huge burden on the defense there. You go 1 of 7, third down, and 0 for 2 on fourth down. That's a major strain on your defense. So would have liked to gotten some 3 and outs on defense. That helps alleviate something there, but just not good enough, in that regard.
Right now, the Lions getting closer to 53. The Ravens trying to get closer to a Super Bowl. Of course, Derrick Henry was the key addition last season for the Ravens and certainly had one of his best years. Can he get close to 2,000 yards again? Here's John Harbaugh talking about the offense of the Ravens leaning on King Henry once again.
I mean, it's just important to be able to control the line of scrimmage. Running the ball obviously is something that's been important here for a long time. And I think it's established that we're going to play that way. So to see it happen in the preseason is a good thing. We didn't do as well last year in the preseason with that. We still were able to turn it around during the season, but we have a good foundation right now. But, we're going to see some really good fronts. We're going to see some run defenses that are loaded up against us, and we want to try to find a way to run the ball anyway. That'll be important to us.
John, a follow-up to the turnovers. Trenton Simpson helped force the 2 of those. How do you think he's handled his responsibilities, everything that's been asked of him this summer?
I think Trent has really made a big step this year. I just feel like the way he's processing the game, has been a big step. He's a guy who was an All-American running back in high school, went to Clemson and, was learning to play defense all along and came here. And I think, you could see that the talent was evident. But this year he's really taken a big step in terms of just, keeping it simple. Maybe it's slowed down. Maybe his brain process is faster, so his game has slowed down just a little bit, and he seems like he's very comfortable.
And the Ravens will once again have to go through the Kansas City Chiefs, as always, to get to the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes back for another season. The key for the Chiefs, it looks like this year, has got to be their offensive line. Maybe a little bit of a step back last season from what we're used to with Mahomes getting chased all over the field. After the preseason comes to an end, Mahomes talked about the pass protection he has seen thus far in the month of August.
I thought they did a great job. They've been working hard the entire camp, and obviously the veteran guys did a great job. But it was good to see the young guys go up against some good rushers and some games and stuff like that, and give me a lot of time in the pocket. And when they give me time like that, guys can get open downfield. And it's kind of like cliche, but it all does. It starts up front, and when the offense line's blocking like that, it kind of gets the offense going.
You've got obviously some feel for playing with Josh and Kingsley camp, but how much different and how significant is it to get the reps in at least a preseason game?
Yeah, no, I was super excited to get out there, especially at Arrowhead, and get real reps with these guys. I always talk about getting hit and stuff like that, and but to get the feel for the pocket, the trust with those guys, and give guys chances to make plays downfield. It shows that all the hard work that we put in training camp is paying off. And this is a little step, but it's a little step in the right direction. And so we're excited now to have 2 weeks to kind of prepare to play a really good defense in the Chargers. And so it was a good step today, and we'll continue to build as we get ready for the regular season.
Probably going to be a lot of cuts after we get off the air today because teams don't have to do it just yet. But one quick note from the NFL is running back, once upon a time, thought to be a great running back in the NFL, Cam Akers, who's bounced around the league, Minnesota, the Rams, I believe Houston maybe. I think I'm missing several teams. He was let go by the Saints, so expect Cam Akers to have another destination. Coming up next, it's one of the big games in college football this weekend, 3:30 Eastern. Alabama takes on Florida State. Yes, Roger Hoover of the Broadcast Network will weigh in on that and a whole lot more going into the Tide's upcoming season. He joins us next here on NewsWire.
playing online blackjack and want to try upping your odds? Well, here's a tip. Cheat cards tell you statistics for whether you hit or stand on every move. If you're into stats, this could be your ticket to winning. And it is totally legal. Now, go get lucky. See you in Lost Pages. Let's get lucky.
The Giants are probably going to open up 1-5 on the season. So then you start to say, the fans are getting angry. They just want to see Dart. The ownership's like, hey, you know what? Maybe we'd make the right move with Russ here. But then you have self-preservation mode with the general manager and the head coach, where it almost seems like it's inevitable. Midway through the season, it's going to have to be Jackson Dart. Otherwise, what are we doing, Giants?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It should be illegal for Scotty Scheffler to play on the PGA Tour. This guy can't be stopped. Another victory at the BMW Championship. He has a chip on the 17th, which will go down in the history books. 82 feet, landed 60 feet short, and then rolled the rest of the way. Super exciting win again for Scheffler, who is not only the best golfer in the world, he's becoming one of the best golfers of all time.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
It doesn't matter that they're early in the game, late in the game, they're trailing, they're leading. It doesn't matter, garbage time. CeeDee Lamb is the guy, and we saw that even after Dak got hurt last year and Cooper Rush was under center. Targets were going to CeeDee Lamb. And when you can get 9, 10, 12, 15 targets on a game-by-game basis, he's going to rack up fantasy points every single week. Frankly, he underperformed last year.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
It's great to catch up with our next guest, who broadcasts for the SEC Network and, of course, Alabama Crimson Tide Radio Network as well. And we'll break down some football here and get ready for the upcoming season. And one of the big games on the schedule, although as I look at the point spread, I'm not sure how big a game this is going to be, as Alabama travels to Tallahassee to take on Florida State. Let's bring in Roger Hoover. It's great to catch up once again with Roger. Great to have you on the show here, Roger, ahead of football season. I just checked your social media because that's what I do before you come on. And it looks like your golf. I don't know if your golf game's any good, but I don't think it's going to get any better in the next 5-6 months.
Yeah, probably not any better. I'm consistently breaking 90 now. And, if you could tell me I'll break 90 every time, but I'll never break 80, I could probably live with that. So I'm a good person to play with. I'm really good in, scrambles, charity golf tournaments, celebrity golf tournaments and stuff.
Gotcha.
I'm your guy because I'm a fairway finder. I can't help with much else but putting. But yeah, I've been playing as much golf as I can. Not as much as normal with a little baby at home. But, yes, the golf clubs are about to be put away permanently, hopefully until maybe after a national championship game or something like that.
It could be, or college football playoff. You'll take that as well, based on the controversy last year. But Roger certainly is so dialed in to everything happening at the University of Alabama. It's great to have him back here on the show. And let's take a look here at the odds. Not that it'll affect anything that you're going to do on game day, Roger. I know you're not there, but we are. Alabama minus 13.5 in Tallahassee for an opener at Doak Campbell, 3:30 p.m. start. So I'm kind of perplexed here a little bit. I understand the Seminoles were not a good football team last year, but this is still a really big number for any team to have to go in and play their first game here on the road. Does it tell me more that Alabama is going to be much better in year two, or that Florida State certainly isn't going to get back to what we thought they would be from a couple years ago?
Yeah, I can really only speak to the Alabama perspective on it, but around this program, there's just so much comfort and confidence in what Kalen DeBoer, this coaching staff, and these players are starting to do. In this day and age of the transfer portal, I think it said a lot about Alabama football after last year. Yes, some players went in the portal in the early window in December and in January, but after spring practice was over, nobody entered the portal from this team. And with that, you have 9 starters coming back on defense. Offensively, I think this is a group that maybe will play to the standard a little bit bit more than what we saw a year ago. Ryan Grubb is now the offensive coordinator for the Crimson Tide. He and Kalen DeBoer get reunited after they were so good together at Washington in that magical 2023 season that took them to a national championship game. And also Ty Simpson, firmly named as the starting quarterback for the Crimson Tide. Somebody that just doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He may not wow you like crazy with his deep arm or anything like that, moving the ball down the field, but so far in preseason camp, he's not thrown an interception against one of the better secondaries in the country that Alabama has. So I think with all of that, there's just so much confidence in this Crimson Tide team, especially early in the season, especially against a group like Florida State, like you mentioned, that's still trying to figure a lot of things out. They have some new coordinators as well on their end. So I think that's maybe why you see so much confidence around this Crimson Tide team. Everything's just so much more familiar, and it truly is Kalen DeBoer's program more, it feels like, as he gets ready for year two.
Yeah, and I think that he probably had the most unfair situation you can possibly have in all of college football. When you even think about historically the names that you have to follow, I mean, he followed a Mount Rushmore coach, regardless if you like Nick Saban or not, and ended up winning 9 games. So I just don't know what the insanity is all about here. Like, that's a pretty good first step, I think, to have to do that, and lost some close games as well. So, I mean, I would guess that as long as they win, what would you say, Roger, like one more game than they won last year, I think everybody needs to just take a big step back and relax here a little bit. It's an almost impossible feat to match a guy that won a championship almost every year he was at Alabama. It was crazy.
Yeah, Coach Saban's standards is very hard to live up to for anybody, but Coach DeBoer last year had some really good moments in his first year as Alabama's head coach, had the team ready to go for that Georgia game, as well as any game I've seen covering Alabama football. The way Alabama started that contest got a little interesting in the second half when Carson Beck was throwing all over the place, and Georgia was going for it on fourth down even as early as the second quarter, and that allowed them to get back in the game. But Alabama was super prepared for a game like that, super prepared for the showdown in Baton Rouge against LSU, where they completely took LSU out of the ball game by halftime. That stadium was empty in the second half like I've never seen at Tiger Stadium.
Yeah.
Problem is the games against Vanderbilt, the games against Oklahoma, where you felt really good going into those contests, Alabama did not play up to its standard and got off to really poor starts in that one. And both of those games were on the road. The Tennessee game kind of stayed in neutral the whole way in that one, and that was another loss. So I think looking at Alabama this season, how well does this team play on the road? Can they get off to a good start on the road? I think that's why this game against Florida State is such a good measuring stick for what kind of team this can be if Alabama is able to correct some of those things from last year.
Their win total going into the season, the odds makers, Roger, have it at 9.5. So as I mentioned, 10 would be considered a successful season. They're heavy favorites to make the college football playoff, not so much in terms of winning the national championship. But Roger, if I asked you about the SEC in terms of how it stacks up, the conference you'll be broadcasting all season, how does Alabama stack up in the conference specifically with some of the juggernauts like Georgia and some of the others this year?
I think most people have Alabama in that group along with Texas and Georgia, and especially for the Crimson Tide, having a quarterback that has a little bit of experience, but he's still a relatively new starter in Ty Simpson. They can say the same about Arch Manning at Texas, Gunnar Stockton at Georgia as well. This is the year of the unknown in SEC quarterbacks after we had so many familiar faces we saw in the league a year ago. I think it helps Alabama that Texas is not on the schedule. Texas A&M is not on the schedule. This is a pretty manageable schedule for the Crimson Tide to roll through. Now, there will be some tricky road games like South Carolina, who looks to be a lot better. They're kind of in that next tier just below, trying to punch their way up. Missouri is another team that has given Alabama fits at times. Crimson Tide have gotten wins against them, but going to Columbia, Missouri can be a tricky game as well. But some of the tougher games also are back at home this year. Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, the two teams I mentioned, those games are going to be played here in Tuscaloosa. The Tennessee game, Neyland Stadium's had quite an effect in that rivalry the last two times. Now that game's in Tuscaloosa, and Tennessee hasn't won in Tuscaloosa since 2003. So I think that's why there's so much optimism around this schedule. You obviously have the huge road trip to Georgia that's going to tell us a lot early in the season, and then the last game on the screen with the Auburn Tigers. Auburn at the end of the year, especially if that Tiger team has had a disappointing season and is really coaching or playing for their coach's job, Hugh Freeze, that can be very tricky emotions to play with at the end of the year. But I think based on the schedule, and again, based on Alabama's strong depth, I think Alabama fans are really optimistic that they'll have an opportunity to be in that 10-2 range and possibly looking at a trip to Atlanta, first of all, for the SEC championship. And then we'll see what happens after that with the college football playoff.
Yeah, you mentioned that game at Georgia. I'm assuming the 27th, as long as Alabama wins out and Georgia wins out. I mean, you're looking at, the early game of the year once again in college football, where both teams probably ranked inside the top 5, maybe Georgia at 3, Alabama at 5, something like that. As we close out, and I know that you're going to do a lot of SEC stuff, it seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, that you sort of alluded to maybe that first one at South Carolina. Are the Gamecocks like the sleeper team for you this year? Because that was like the first thing that you said there, Roger. So reading between the lines here a little bit, do you think that maybe that's the team that's a little bit better, or is there another sleeper team in the conference?
Well, certainly they had a good year last year, going 9-3 and being kind of with Alabama and Ole Miss in that discussion of another SEC team getting in the college football playoff a year ago. A lot of confidence they have with Lenora Sellers at quarterback. He looks to be one of the most dynamic playmakers in the Southeastern Conference, coming off a tremendous 2024. It'll be fun to see what he can do in 2025. They still have a tough schedule as well. I believe they have to go to LSU this year, some other tricky road trips. So we'll see if they have that home magic, but that was the reason I brought them up. Williams-Brice Stadium, when South Carolina is good, it's one of the tougher places to play in the SEC, and I think where it falls in the schedule, that's going to be a tricky time of the year for Alabama. So that's why, I'm trying to take a look at what the Gamecocks are going to do each and every week leading up to that one, because it certainly will be a battle.
Me too. I think he'll be my Heisman pick, I think, this season. Really underrated player. And I don't know why he's not in the top 2 or 3, honestly, to start the year. All right, Roger, it's great to catch up with you. Congratulations on the new baby, and have a great season. I know you'll be busy every single Saturday from now, as you said, maybe hopefully through January. Thanks again for coming on NewsWire. It's great to catch up.
You're the best. Thank you, Craig.
All right, Roger Hoover here with us. Coming up next, we dive into some baseball with Justin Perry, recap the big matchup with the Yankees and Red Sox right after.
First time on a casino floor and feeling a little overwhelmed? Well, here's a tip. Lots of machines have a free demo mode you can try for practice. So give those slots a spin in practice mode before you start putting down some real cash. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
If the Golden State Valkyries make the playoffs, and right now, at 18-17, they're one game ahead of the loss column versus Seattle and the Spartans. If they make the playoffs, you must, and I mean must, give their coach head coach of the year in the WNBA.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
And let me tell you, Gabe, very similar to the Bills and the way they lose to the Chiefs with that play. It took Canadian Nick Taylor to hit a 90-foot bomb to win the Canadian Open. So let's talk about the heartbreaking fashion. It's not like Tommy Fleetwood. Sure, he's given a few away, but he's also had many stolen from him in miraculous, crazy fashion.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Fair to say that the Red Sox are going to end this 2025 baseball season knowing they dominated the New York Yankees. There's just no other way around it, even with just a few games to play. Let's bring in Justin Perry from Pitcher List and go over everything that happened over the weekend. And Justin, great to have you back here on NewsWire. I mean, did I miss something here? I mean, the Red Sox have played the Yankees over and over again, and with the exception of Sunday, it's been a clear victory for them this season. And by the way, there's a chance that if this trends in the direction it's trending, they're going to have to face each other again in the wild card round 2.
Was quite the series as a native New Yorker. All my Boston friends chirping at me every single night up until, maybe last night a little revenge, but it doesn't feel good. I'll tell you that much. It was a rough stretch for the Yanks. I was a little confounded by the lack of hitting. I think that, a lot of people are going to focus on the errors from Volpe and Chisholm, but honestly, I think the best thing to do, especially as a gambler, is not be too phased and sort of look forward and see where the Yankees are heading, especially if you want to maybe buy the sort of proverbial dip. The Yankees, I believe, have the easiest schedule remaining by win percentage in all of the American League. So, yeah, not exactly great, but it was good to see the bats sort of start to come alive yesterday. Giancarlo Stanton still is essentially, I consider, the hottest hitter in baseball for the month of August. There's really no denying that. Numbers over at Pitcher List have him with the best process in August, process plus metric, the metric that has, is the native Pitcher List metric, by about 10%. And coming in number 2 is Ben Rice. So the Yankees definitely have plenty to feel good about. I know a lot of people give Aaron Boone a tough time because he's always saying it's right in front of us. It's right in front of us. But unfortunately, he's correct. And I don't usually like agreeing with managers, but with such an easy schedule, their last, I think, 10 games are all against Baltimore and the White Sox. They're about to play Baltimore and Washington. It's just, they got to get right. They got to start showing up like the Yankees and just put this behind them. And hopefully it's just a blip in the radar.
Yeah, and the offense struggled, but the one common denominator, and as a Yankees fan, if you have to hope that this does not happen in the postseason, because I do think the Yankees are going to get there, are the errors. 5 in the 4-game series against the Red Sox, but this is nothing new. The Yankees have been making errors all season long, and that's the kind of stuff that's going to fly under a radar for now, but and I know that in the wild card games, no, you're going to know everything that happens, and you're going to be watching for stuff like that. What I'm watching for right now, Justin, as we look at the East, is I still think the Yankees are well within the opportunity to take out the Red Sox and move past them. Now, the Blue Jays just keep winning, and they did it this weekend in Miami without Vladimir Guerrero, and now they have Bieber back there, and Scherzer's pitching well. I got to say, I'm stunned. The Blue Jays look to me like the team that's going to win that division. So for me, it's just battling it out between Boston and New York for the 2 spot. Do you agree with that? Or do you think the Yanks can still, or even the Red Sox can still catch Toronto? I don't see it.
I don't see it either. I think it's about said and done, 76-55 for Toronto right now. Yankees 6 games behind. It would take a lot, right? And again, I like to look forward into those schedules and see what's happening. And the Toronto does have to play Milwaukee, Houston, Boston, Cincinnati, Kansas City. They have 7 games against Tampa Bay as well, which isn't always a walk in the park. Compare that to like Boston, who's going to have to play Detroit, Philly for 6 games, the Mets for 7 games. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong row. Detroit, Blue Jays for 3, Yankees for 3, and then get the A's for 6, which, again, that's not the easy gimmies that it was even 3 months ago, right? That team is a pretty deep 1 through 5 roster, and I think that there might be some wiggle room. I don't know if you're going to see a total reshuffle, but I wouldn't be totally shocked if the Yankees pull in a little bit closer. Again, 7 against the White Sox, 7 against the Orioles is just such a gimme. I don't know if there are 2 worse teams in the American League right now in terms of who you want to be playing. And then you also mix in 3 against the Minnesota Twins for the Yankees. So honestly, I don't know why the Yankees should drop more than like a handful of games the rest of the way here. We don't have a lot of time left. I don't think it's the worst bet. And I know there's a lot of data out there on some of the expected wins that some people put a lot of time into for the Yankees. They've been rather unlucky to the tune of about 7 or 8 wins off their record. So if things went as they expected this season, maybe the Yankees are jockeying now, but it would take a lot for them to take that East crown. I don't think it happens, but I wouldn't be shocked if they're a game or 2 back when all is said and done.
All right, let's head out west in the American League, where the A's have been one of the hottest teams in baseball, and Seattle put an end to that this weekend, at least for the time being, winning 2 out of 3. Cal Raleigh, I mean, I believe at this point, Justin, he's going to hit 60. I mean, something would have to go sideways for him not to. He's got 49 already. I still don't understand how he doesn't win the MVP. I think he is the MVP. And then if we scroll a little bit here and take a look at the division at this point, We know that that was the end for the Angels this weekend, losing those 3 games to the Cubs, so they're done. It's a matter of Texas, Seattle, and Houston. And the reason I believe this is so bunched up is because they're all going to play each other here coming up in September, so that could determine it.
Yeah, there's a lot of inter-American League West play, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I do think the A's are great. I think Cal Raleigh is great. I do disagree on the MVP. I think the voters might be able to see past the home run numbers and see some of the impact outside of just home runs. I mean, Raleigh this month is hitting home runs, but that seems to be about it, right? The average is down, the impact is down, but every time he makes good contact, it leaves the park. So how do you really evaluate that in today's game? I'm not totally sure. But I'm pretty interested in watching this Houston Astros, Seattle Mariners attack. I've been a little underwhelmed with the Seattle offense, honestly. It doesn't feel like they have the real the oomph to get it done. I know they got Suarez and Naylor in there, but you're talking Randy Arozarena and Julio, and then those guys, and then it gets a little iffy once you get past that. And of course with Cal Raleigh. But I think there's some issues, and if your MVP level player isn't hitting over 250. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a different scenario once you get to the playoffs and pitchers can kind of work around the major threats and attack you where you're weak and play to those disadvantages. I do like Seattle. I think it's going to rely a lot on the pitching, but I have a lot of questions about them coming east in that second round if they make it out, and get against like an East team.
All right, biggest move in terms of awards has been the American League Cy Young over the last month. Someone's going to be really angry at the end of the year, some fan base. Justin, at this point, because Scooble's numbers and Crochet's numbers are as close as you're ever going to see. I mean, this is going right down to the wire. It could go either way, but someone's going to be mad, and I kind of like this little controversy we're going to have at the end of the season. One of the fan bases is going to stuff at us.
I mean, one of my friends on Twitter saying it's a heavyweight fight. It really is. I got to lean Crochet. Doing what he's doing at Fenway is that much crazier than going at Comerica, where it is a little bit easier to pitch, and I hope the voters know that. I mean, for me, saying Boston's tough, but man, give me Crochet.
Have a great weekend, Justin. Thanks.
Have me.
The Bengals are listening to trade offers for perennial Pro Bowler Trey Hendrickson, per me, and Tom Pelissero. It's unclear if the NFL sack leader will be playing elsewhere in 2025, and a trade will be a real challenge, but time will tell. You know it's not a real challenge? In the offseason, when he doesn't want to be here and you're trying to make a trade for him. Most people that say, okay, I have to sell a house or sell a car, let me put it out on the market, and I'll take the best deal that's available.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, they get some good young pitching, but they can never hit. They got boppers in that lineup. They got electric strikeout guys in the starting lineup for the pitching staff. Like, I feel like I'm rooting that team in, but also not just rooting them in. I think there's a legitimate chance they can take it down, Craig.
Yeah, I think so. Remember, I think I came on your show at the beginning of the season and took Detroit at the beginning of the season with you guys, and now I'm feeling like, hey, I got a shot.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Passing offense is him, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. They have Jahan Dotson. They just recently traded for John Mechie from the Houston Texans. Now, obviously, yes, Saquon is there, but a lot of people are expecting the Eagles to have an increase in their passing rate this year. They won't rely as heavily on Saquon, and it should just mean more volume overall. Obviously, Brown was fantastic, and he did so in not playing a full season last year.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
NFL win totals created because of Jimmy Johnson and the Dallas Cowboys. When Jimmy Johnson came into the NFL from the Miami Hurricanes, somebody asked him, hey, how many games do you think they're going to win? I want to bet it. And no one had ever done it before. Unbelievable, Brady? And he said, you know what? Okay, I'm going to come up with a number. And he only came up for a number for the Cowboys. Then he said the phone started ringing.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. The big story of the day comes from the National Football League, where the hold in, hold out whatever you want to call it, it's over for the Washington Commanders as Terry McLaurin, according to ESPN, has signed a new deal with the Commanders for 3 years and $96 million, sort of, kind of falling in the 4th to 5th to 6th highest paid wide receiver in the National Football League. A little bit difficult to figure out exactly how much to pay McLaurin because, again, he's older than a lot of those other wide receivers like Chase and Jefferson and Lamb, who got contract extensions, but it seems like this definitely works out for both sides. And by the way, for those of you drafting in fantasy football this weekend and looking for Terry McLaurin's name on the board, you can safely draft him because he's going to be playing for the Commanders in week 1 of the NFL season. All right, well, week 0 of the college football season is officially in the books. And yeah, it did provide some excitement without a doubt. A couple of very close games, including the first one with Iowa State and Kansas State, and then that last one with Hawaii and Stanford could have went either way right up until the final minutes. So week 1 is coming in college football, and there's some huge games, including Texas, Ohio State, Clemson, LSU, and then the standalone game on Sunday night being played at Hard Rock Stadium between Notre Dame and Miami. So let's get a recap and also a look forward at the upcoming college football slate. Here's Rich Sermonillo breaking it all down.
Craig, we got a full weekend of college football ahead of us and an abbreviated weekend behind us. So let's take a look at week 0. Breakdown games in week 1. Biggest takeaway from week 0 is that Iowa State continues to get it done against Kansas State. That's now 6 straight covers for Matt Campbell over K-State. Wasn't pretty, rarely is, but huge win in the Big 12 in a race that's probably going to continue throughout November. Still shocked at this point that no one from a larger program has scooped up Matt Campbell. Now let's move on to week 1, Craig. 3 massive games between top 10 opponents. First one, Ohio State hosting Texas. Huge top 10 battle. Interested in this quarterback competition, Julian Sayin of Ohio State versus Texas's Arch Manning. I think the edge goes to Ohio State, not just at home, but Sayin has the best pound-for-pound player in college football, Jeremiah Smith. I think that's the difference. Give me Ohio State laying just 1.5 points. Quick interlude here for Arch Manning. I'm getting back into the NFL draft market for Manning. That market softened a little bit. It went from plus 200 for Arch being the number 1 overall pick now to plus 650. I got in after Arch's granddad, Archie, said he might bypass on the draft. I still think it's a good possibility that he leaves for the draft and winds up being the number 1 overall pick. Now, number 2 game, Battle of the Tigers at Clemson, LSU versus Clemson. I'm taking Clemson in this one. LSU still in a bit of a transition mode. Lots of transfer players. I think it's going to take a little while before they find chemistry. Love Clemson. One of my choices to play in the national championship game. LSU, by the way, Craig, 0-5 last 5 openers. 0-5 ATS, including the last 3 under Brian Kelly. Now, final top 10 battle, I'm taking Notre Dame over Miami. Just not a big believer in Mario Cristobal. Not a big believer right now in Carson Beck. First game back from his UCL injury last December. The things I can count on in this game, Notre Dame's defense and running back Jeremiah Love. Couple of angles I want to throw out for week 1. And then we got 96 games, so a lot to break down. First off, Iowa State sandwich spot, hosting South Dakota. 3-10 last 13 against the spread versus FCS. Last week was K-State. Next week is Iowa. I'm taking the Coyotes in this game. And then Monday night, Bill Belichick's debut, Carolina against TCU. TCU remarkably has won outright 11 straight road openers, 9-2 against the spread in these games. Could be a tough opener for Chapel Bill.
Thanks so much, Rich. We'll look forward to Rich's insights next week here on NewsWire. By the way, those of you who are getting ready to make your bets, maybe for week 1 of college football, you can store them all in one place and also get some help with the bets this week just by downloading the SportsGrid app. It's available for both iOS and Android, and all you have to do is take out your phone and scan that QR code. You're streaming live on both devices if you like, or if you have an iPad or any other thing you like, just scan that QR code, download the SportsGrid app. And by the way, did I mention it's absolutely free to download? Coming up next, We'll check in with Donnie Rightside on the National Football League quarterbacking and also talk more about the upcoming games in Major League Baseball for the week. You're watching NewsWire here on SportsGrid, and after this quick break, we'll be back with Donnie right after this.
The Bengals are listening to trade offers for perennial Pro Bowler Trey Hendrickson per me and Tom Pelissero. It's unclear if the NFL sack leader will be playing elsewhere in 2025, and a trade will be a real challenge, but time will tell. You know what's not a real challenge? In the offseason, when he doesn't want to be here and you're trying to make a trade for him. Most people that say, okay, I have to sell a house or sell a car, let me put it out on the market, and I'll take the best deal that's available.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, they got some good young pitching, but they can never hit. They got boppers in that lineup. They got electric strikeout guys in the starting lineup for the pitching staff. Like, I feel like I'm rooting that team in, but also not just rooting them in. I think there's a legitimate chance they can take it down, Craig.
Yeah, I think so. Remember, I think I came on your show at the beginning of the season and took Detroit at the beginning of the season with you guys, and now I'm feeling like, hey, I got a shot.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Passing offense is him, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. They have Jahan Dotson. They just recently traded for John Mechie from the Houston Texans. And obviously, yes, Saquon is there, but a lot of people are expecting the Eagles to have an increase in their passing rate this year. They won't rely as heavily on Saquon, and it should just mean more volume overall. Obviously, Brown was fantastic, and he did so in not playing a full season last year.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
NFL win totals created because of Jimmy Johnson and the Dallas Cowboys. When Jimmy Johnson came into the NFL from the Miami Hurricanes, somebody asked him, hey, how many games do you think they're going to win? I want to bet it. And no one had ever done it before. Unbelievable. Brady, and he said, you know what? Okay, I'm going to come up with a number. And he only came up for a number for the Cowboys. Then he said the phone started ringing.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Great to have Donnie Rightside from the Early Line with us for the next 25 or so minutes, doing some football, doing some baseball as we close out this Monday edition of the show. Donnie, great to have you on here. And, this time of the year, a lot of predictions being made, a lot of darts being thrown, as I like to say. But one thing that it seems like is that we look at the awards markets, and for those people wagering on it, if you're not taking a quarterback to win the MVP, then you're not winning, I guess, right? Like something insane would have to happen here. I guess I just didn't realize that you have to go back so long to find somebody that was not a quarterback to win the MVP. And it feels like one of, by the way, the last three guys that you see there on the board, barring something crazy, are probably going to win it again.
No, it's the way it always is. It's a quarterback-driven sport. The same thing in college football for the most part. The guy who puts up the biggest statistics, the best quarterback on the best team, usually gets the nod, and rightfully so. The resurgence, though, of the running back position does make it interesting. Like if last year Saquon Barkley's not going to win the MVP, what do running backs have to do, Craig? 2,500 yards in a season? What does a wide receiver have to do? Catch 2,200 yards worth of passes? And then if the wide receiver is catching 2,200 yards, who knows what the statistics that quarterback actually put up that season anyway? It just feels like the MVP award should just be best quarterback award.
It is. And if you look at the odds here, other than throwing Burrow into the mix at 6-1, it's Lamar Jackson, the favorite, followed by Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. And there's Burrow square in the middle. I know some people do like him. Daniels is at 10-1. He'd have to have a fantastic season to beat out the rest of those. Herbert, to me, at 20-1 is kind of funny. I mean, they run the ball a lot there. I don't know. There's got to be somebody better than him to throw my dart at 20-1.
No, exactly. I mean, you're taking a look at maybe a Baker Mayfield down in the division that doesn't have the greatest defenses where he can put up 40-plus touchdown passes and get that same effect. But you're right. Justin Herbert, like his MVP, I guess, would be as a really good game manager. Not to slight him. He's got all the talent in the world. He's just not in a system that's going to ask him to put up 35-plus points a game. So if his way to MVP is 14-2 or 14-3 on the season, then that's probably the way it's going to get it done. Not Justin Herbert with 48 touchdown passes and 4 interceptions.
Yeah, I mean, Bo Nix could have like 30% more touchdowns and yards and everything else, but not win as many games. So to me, I mean, even though I don't love Denver, I probably would put him more in the mix, I think, than I would Herbert. All right, so Rookie of the Year is one that is fascinating every year because it's usually never the guy at the very beginning, kind of like the Heisman. You have to wait to see things play out in September and October. So Ashton Genty has to be the favorite, of course. But Cam Ward is the name, Donnie, that's moved up a little bit in the preseason because, look, he's locked down the job. For the most part, he's looked capable. And given it's a quarterback league, he's got a shot. Omari and Hampton with the Najee Harris situation has moved up a little bit. Travis Hunter's moved back, as you could see a little bit here. And then you have McMillan. And then the hot name that's moved into the mix because of the preseason is Travion Henderson. Still remains to be seen if he could do it in the regular season. So, I mean, I certainly don't think that Genty is necessarily a lock to win the award. And I would say that maybe some other names jump in that we're not even talking about here.
Yeah, because also when you take a look at the award, right, Cam Ward, outside of Craig Wright, a knee injury, Achilles injury, if Cam Ward's going to play 17 games, he's going to put up some decent statistics. But a quarterback is also going to get knocked on what that win-loss record is going to be because usually it's a direct effect of how the quarterback plays. When you take a look at Ashton Genty, he can run for 1,200 yards this year. Craig had 10 touchdowns, and the Raiders put him in 6 games. That's not a bad reflection on Genty. Oh, well, he didn't have a good team around him. Well, the quarterback usually picks up a lot of that blame. That's why I think Cam Ward is set a little bit back because for him to win it, Craig, what are we talking about? 3,800 yards? 28 or so touchdown passes, limited interceptions, which probably means that the Titans would have made a close run to the playoffs. But if they are 3 wins, 4 wins, 5 wins, I don't think he's going to get the nod at that point. But I'll tell you one interesting one, though. It is Jackson Dart at 25-1 starting to creep up higher and higher because he did have a good preseason. The only matter is, what are we getting out of Russell Wilson and how long do they pull the plug on Russell Wilson? Because no matter what, they're not making the playoffs. So keeping Russ in there as a starter, Craig, week 6, week 7, week 8, where if you tell me I get 12 decent weeks out of Jackson Dart and nobody pulling away, maybe he's that guy at a longer price point that can sort of surprise at this point. Because I look at this and go, it's supposed to be Genty, it's supposed to be Ward, and then a lot of guys that don't make too much sense unless they're going to get started on their careers earlier than normal, which is what Jackson Dart. We didn't expect him probably to play till week 13, 14, 15. We might be looking at him, Craig, weeks 5, 6, or 7.
Yeah, no, it's possible. And even those receivers like Igbuka and Burden, let's not forget that Puka Nacua was fantastic 2 years ago, came out of nowhere. Maybe somebody follows that mold. We will see. All right, so defensive rookie of the year. This is the tough one for me. Hard to read this market. Look, I know Abdul Carter was the highest drafted player that we're going to talk about here, but I mean, to me, Donnie, this could be anybody. And I feel like FanDuel is showing you that here. You have a favorite at plus 185. They have to make him the favorite because he was the highest draft pick, but everybody else is right there at 2, even Travis Hunter, who seemingly is not going to play as many snaps as some of the others. I think FanDuel's basically telling us take your dart and throw it because you may land on somebody outside of Carter to win that award.
Exactly. Like Ashton Genty, we just talked about as a plus 250 price, which is a crazy price for a rookie that we don't know about. But we understand he's going to start. He'll get the bulk of the carries. And you're looking at statistics at the end of the year, you will get them. Abdul Carter's on a very deep defensive line. He's going to get a lot of snaps here, but also a plus 185 price, Craig. This is the NFL. Like, you can get injured at any time, which isn't an excuse. And we're not betting on guys just to get injured. But plus 185, say, okay, who's in second? 3-1, 4-1, 5. No, plus 950 on Jalen Walker. So me taking Abdul Carter, what's the expectations, Craig? 12 sacks to wrap that up easily? Like, that's what you're expecting out of a plus 185 player. Now, to me, it is going to come from a defensive line because usually a really good rookie, what is it? I mean, it was have to be Darrelle Revis on Revis Island right away as a rookie. Nobody throws his way, and that's how you get attention. But statistics usually get the attention. I'll tell you one interesting one. It's Jahad Campbell there, 15-1 as a pass rushing linebacker that could surprise, because if you get sacks 7, 8, or 9 on the season, you will be in this race. Yes, Abdul Carter is probably the best of the bunch, Craig, to me, but plus 185, that's not a price point I want. Slide me down the list on a couple guys, 15 to 20-1, because as we know, Craig, on defense, somebody is going to surprise. Somebody that we don't think is going to get double-digit sacks as a rookie and could take this thing down.
Speaking of surprises, Donnie, by this time tomorrow and a little bit later, there's always one or two every year in the NFL. I don't think it's going to move the odds one way or the other, but cut down day is coming, and we definitely are seeing some eye-opening moves. The one that happened yesterday was Carson Wentz signing with the Minnesota Vikings, and we talked about that a little bit earlier in the show. I don't necessarily think that this is like, oh my gosh, let's go get Carson Wentz. I have to think, Donnie, sort of reading behind this, is that it looks like the Vikings are just really unhappy with anybody behind McCarthy and don't want to take any chances. I don't know that Wentz is the answer there necessarily, but it's seemingly looking toward, hey, we got to make sure that we have somebody capable back there behind McCarthy.
Yeah, it's almost like, Andy Reid put out the word like, hey, you know what? He was the backup there in Kansas City. He's going to put in good work. He's going to make sure he's ready on game day. And that's sometimes all these teams can ask for. Because usually they say, well, we have our starter that's going to be away, and he's going to be a knockout player this year. And that's what Minnesota's hoping with J.J. McCarthy. But again, Craig, we haven't seen J.J. McCarthy. What happens in week number 3? He's like saying, you know what? Things aren't looking out that good. Not saying they're going to Carson Wentz, but you can't go to an undrafted rookie free agent in week number 3 because your number 1 overall pick for the 2 years ago in your organization is not playing well. The Carson Wentz one, I don't think moves the needle, but it's one where Carson understands he's not the starter. He's not going to upset the locker room. He's not going to get angry that Jalen Hurts was drafted behind him, get me out of Philadelphia. He's at that point in his career. He's just trying to earn a paycheck, and he's going to be comforting to J.J. McCarthy because J.J. shouldn't get his job taken by Carson Wentz. Just a veteran guy in the room who probably can help J.J. McCarthy out.
Yeah, and as far as the Vikings go, Donnie, as we close out this football discussion, their win total is 8.5 on the season. And to me, because of the uncertainty at quarterback in this quarterback league, it's one of the few teams that it's really hard to predict how they're going to play this year. Like, I pretty much know because I've seen the other guys play. McCarthy could be fantastic. This number could jump to 11 or 12. It could be brutal and go the other way. Too much variance for me on this total.
No, and here's the variance we're worried about, right? Like, wait a second. They just had Sam Darnold last year, and look at how many wins they got. J.J. McCarthy's probably better at this point. Why not? When you're betting on rookie quarterbacks, which I know he's in his second year, you usually don't make a lot of money there. So you're right. It's up in the air in Minnesota. If I had to bet on it, to be honest, Craig, I'd actually go under. I'd go under right now.
Interesting stuff. All right, Donnie, we'll be right back with Donnie. We'll dive into some Major League Baseball. You're watching NewsWire here on SportsGrid, where the Dodgers once again back on top and heavy favorites to win the division. We head toward the month of September. We'll be right back.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
They're saying that he might be back for the start of the playoffs, but their playoff spot isn't secure with the Mariners bearing down on them and the wild card completely in flux. So this is like borderline red alert because the pitching staff has not been good. We have not seen good stuff from Framber Valdez. So now that the back end of the bullpen is not good, I don't know what to make.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Answer is this. 12-team, 3 wide receiver, you take Jamar Chase. In a 10-team league, though, where you have only 2 wide receivers to start, it's an interesting supply and demand situation with a roster like that. That is where the Bijan number 1 overall maybe comes into play, because you could take Bijan and then turn around. You're still getting 2 number 1 wide receivers in a 10-team league draft.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
The young Goddard angle too had the added PR campaign of like, do you want to take a New York and or a Jersey guy to play a New York Ryder Cup? Like the crowd juice there is going to be off the charts.
They would love. They would kill for him.
Chris Goddard like making a big putt, like popping the chain to the Bethpage crowd. Are you kidding me? There's some of these guys I just want to pick them because I want the visual, I want the memory.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
All right, we have Donnie back with us, breaking down some baseball before we get out of here on this Monday. And then Donnie, of course, will be hosting the early line tomorrow morning, so make sure you tune into that. Okay, Donnie, so here we go. Dodgers and Padres, based on the weekend's results, are 74 and 57, the both of them. Wow. Dodgers are heavy favorites to win because, again, they've done a good job against the Padres this season, but this thing is going to be really close to win the West. Is it just that simple that this comes down to one of the last games of the season? And Donnie, here's what I would say about this. This is the last position the Dodgers want to be in if they really want to win the division. They probably thought, and I think anybody who bet that 107 over or whatever that was, I mean, you're going to lose that.
Yeah.
Dodgers may have to go down to the last day of the season. They don't want to be a wild card, do they?
No, and they've been priced all season as if we're going to be wasting away this talent here early in September and just fiddling around for 3 weeks before we get to the playoffs. And here's the problem that you bring up, Craig, which is the biggest one. If you are fighting tooth and nail to get to the playoffs, sometimes your team stays in playoff mode. But what's the advantage you're supposed to have when you get to the playoffs when you win your division? You have 5 or 6 days to set up your rotation, give your starters a breather and your bullpen. So when you do show up in the playoffs, the other team's postseason run of, let's just say, starting pitching and bullpen is supposed to be worn out. You fight tooth and nail down the stretch. That's high leverage innings on your best relievers, on your best pitchers just to get there. Then you take a deep breath and have to get going. It's always nice to have those couple days off, and we'll find it playing itself out. But I'm still sticking with the Dodgers, even though I like the moves that the Padres did at the deadline more than any other team, Craig, in Major League Baseball. Because if you just have decent enough frontline pitching, your bullpen is going to carry you in the month of October. You see so many times 3 and 4 innings out of a starting pitcher. Oh my goodness, you got to piece together 5 innings from your bullpen. You can do that if you're the Padres, and I like that batting order 1 through 9. I think the Padres will be fun, but I'm still holding out until they knock the Dodgers off and somebody other than the Dodgers wins that division. I got to stick with the Dodgers.
Yeah, makes sense here. Giants, by the way, did have a good weekend, but they've fallen back quite a bit, not even available in terms of odds. Diamondbacks still kind of hanging around. Rockies, by the way, eliminated, Donnie. I mean, you can't bet them anymore. You know, you wanted to, but you can't bet them.
5 and 5 in the last 10. They were hot at the right time now, Craig.
They were. They beat the Dodgers a couple times, too. Okay, so sad news for Donnie Rightside fans here today, as it looks like Zach Wheeler is not just going to be out for this season. Look, I'm not going to bet against anyone, Donnie, but this seems to be the pitching injury that does in the careers of guys. I'm just saying, and Zach Wheeler has been the most consistent ace in Major League Baseball for about a decade. He's out for the year. I know that Aaron Nola came back, so that's good news for them. And Nola, by the way, is not going to be Zach Wheeler. He'll go to the 4 or the 5. But in a 7-game series, I still think, Donnie, the Phillies may have the 2 best pitchers going in the postseason. It's still maybe 3. It's very possible based on the performances. But I do feel bad for Wheeler, who, by the way, said that I think that he was done anyway after his next contract. I wonder if he speeds that up next year.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. And the Phillies put out the right, statements there, and the teammates saying, it's about family, it's about life, it's not about the game. But it's got to be a devastating blow because when you get to the playoffs, the Phillies are one of the few teams in Major League Baseball that would have 2 or 3 starters, Craig, that you don't have to worry about a bullpen game. They'll pitch right into the 7th or 8th inning, give you 100 pitches, and then you hand it over to one of your closers or a deep bullpen guy, and away you go. That advantage is taken away, and you're even seeing the odds market react to it. Hey, the Phillies are playing great baseball now, yes, but it's not so much sometimes, Craig, about the regular season. It's the projection once you get to the playoffs. If you're relying on Zach Wheeler, you knew he'd be there. Now it's Christopher Sanchez. He's been wonderful. Have we seen that high-level effort in the playoffs so far for him? How about, you take a look at Ranger Suarez. Great start yesterday, 11 strikeouts, doesn't give up an earned run. He's been known to break down at the end of the season. That linchpin, too, because sometimes, he's hurt every year. You hit the nail on the head, Craig. Zach Wheeler is never hurt and always available, and now he's down with a terrible injury that will carry into next offseason. And this isn't a 24-year-old saying, you know what, I'll get it back here. You're in your mid-30s at this point. It's hard to come back from those type of injuries. A devastating blow to the World Series hopes of my Philadelphia Phillies, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely so. Matt Harvey had that same surgery, never was the same.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's just one of those really tough ones for a pitcher and very complex. The Phillies, by the way, are going to win the division. They're minus 1250. They will take on the Mets this week. So this is kind of it. If the Mets have any shot whatsoever at shortening those odds, I believe they have to sweep. And the games are in New York. Tonight's game, Philly is minus 130 on the road because the Mets have their best guy going in Kodai Senga. But look at these matchups afterwards. Sean Manaea, Norman McLean. Like, I don't know how deep the Mets can even think that they're going to go in any series, including a wild card after they get through Senga. I mean, Peterson's been okay, I guess. Yeah. Mets to me have to be fortunate just to make the playoffs this year, Donnie. I don't see them making any noise. I think Philadelphia, even without Wheeler, far superior team.
Yeah, when you saw the New York Mets playing good baseball for, the first parts of the season, it's like, boy, they have a lot of pitchers, but not household names that are pitching really well. Well, you need your household names to pitch really well, and even those guys that aren't household names to continue that. You haven't gotten that from the Mets. And even looking at tonight, like Kodai Senga, over his past 60 days, has not been a good pitcher. Sanchez has been wonderful. It's a cheap price tonight. And to your point as well, it feels like they have to sweep, but doesn't it feel like they have to win this game? Like if they take down Sanchez, okay, life of the building, let's go out and get it. Now, Luzardo's been good, and Taijuan Walker has had a rebirth over the past month and a half as well, who used to be a pitcher for the New York Mets. But it almost feels like if the Phillies win tonight, you like turn the lights out at Citi Field and they don't get turned back on. But tonight, you can still believe in the next day. I'm interested to see how this game plays out. And also, having said that, as a betting man, I actually do think the Phillies win tonight. I think they have the better lineup and the better pitcher on the mound, and that price point isn't too crazy where it's a 125 or 130 price point. I'll take the Phils.
Yeah, just a short price on the Phillies tonight. All right, so in the National League Central, two things happened this weekend. The Cubs are sticking around here. They did a good job against Milwaukee earlier in the week and then ended the Angels' season. Not that the Angels were going to win anything, but they officially ended their season. They're not going to win. And the Brewers lost 2 out of 3, surprisingly, to the Giants. But how hot can the Brewers be all year? That's not realistic. Boy, the Reds losing 2 out of 3 to Arizona. They were in a nice position had they done well there to get closer to the Mets. But I'm not going to rule those 3 teams out, Donnie. Brewers, Cubs, Reds. I mean, I think it's the Brewers' division to win, but I'm not going to eliminate the Reds from the postseason, especially we'll see what happens with Philly and New York this week. Reds could jump right back in it.
No, exactly. And you're taking a look at a Reds team that does have some young power pitchers that don't know any better than to throw 10 strikeouts a game down in September, which would be fun to watch. You're also looking at the Cubs. Tucker back to the lineup. PCA starting to hit again. Those things are on the rise. And also the Milwaukee Brewers doing it with tape right now, sticky tape. Like that lineup injured on a day-to-day basis. Who's starting? Doesn't matter. Feels like they just keep winning here, Craig.
It is true. Donnie, great stuff. We'll see you back tomorrow morning on the early line. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Craig.
All right. Coming up next, we will get to some last licks. We'll hit on Micah Parsons in the very latest with his return or not return to the Cowboys.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
They're saying that he might be back for the start of the playoffs, but their playoff spot isn't secure with the Mariners bearing down on them and the wild card completely in flux. So this is like borderline red alert because the pitching staff has not been good. We have not seen good stuff from Framber Valdez. So now that the back end of the bullpen is not good, I don't know what to make.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Answer is this. 12-team, 3 wide receiver, you take Jamar Chase. In a 10-team league, though, where you have only 2 wide receivers to start, It's an interesting supply and demand situation with a roster like that. That is where the Bijan number 1 overall maybe comes into play, because you could take Bijan and then turn around. You're still getting 2 number 1 wide receivers in a 10-team league draft.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
The Young Goddard angle too had the added PR campaign of like, do you want to take a New York and or a Jersey guy to play a New York Ryder Cup? Like the crowd juice there is going to be off the charts.
They would love. They would kill for him.
Chris Goddard like making a big putt, like popping the chain to the Bethpage crowd. Are you kidding me? There's some of these guys I just want to pick them because I want the visual, I want the memory.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. The NFL preseason wrapped up with some excitement over the weekend with players that you didn't expect. Also, a really nice gesture by the Milwaukee Brewers. We'll get to that and a whole lot more in this edition of Last Licks. Well, not the best look for the Dallas Cowboys as usual. Micah Parsons, who still is holding out, hasn't signed with the Dallas Cowboys, but does grace them with his presence at the games. It seems like they're very far apart with contracts, war of words, back and forth. Jerry Jones loves the attention, probably more than any other owner in the NFL. But I'm not sure that this was really nice to see as the Cowboys wrapped up their preseason with Micah Parsons there but not playing. And he could have stood on the sidelines, or maybe he could have just sat in the locker room. But instead, he decided to sit on a training board in front of the whole team, in front of the stands, in front of the fans, and take a nap. Yep, that's true. Now, I don't know. Maybe he was just faking this thing. I'm not really sure. But either way, it just shows you that, the Cowboys just have to figure out a way to get this done. We've talked about this for too long, 2 months. I am secretly thinking that Jerry Jones likes the attention on this, just to eventually have to give in, to get the attention, to show that he ended up getting it done somehow. I don't know. But what a look for the Cowboys over the weekend. Micah Parsons sleeping during a preseason game. I got to also keep it real. I didn't see a lot of this preseason. I could have slept through all of it too. All right. Shiloh Sanders, a linebacker from the University of Colorado, signed as a free agent this offseason with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Sanders, by all accounts, was having a pretty good preseason and doing fine in training camp until this happened. Sanders decided that it would be a good idea to stir it up a little bit with another player he was playing against. Words were exchanged. Some hand fighting was exchanged. I went back and saw this video a couple of times, but this is what I will never understand. Now, I understand that guys get upset and they're going to do things that are uncharacteristic, but what good is ever going to come out of punching another guy that's wearing a helmet on his head? I've never understood this, because the best thing that can happen is nothing. The worst thing that can happen is you could break your hand. But I guess there is one worse thing. You could get cut, and that's what happened. Shiloh Sanders cut by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. According to ESPN, his agents hope that he ends up signing with somebody else. We'll see if it happens. But he had a really good college career at the University of Colorado. I don't know that this is going to work for him in the NFL. Hopefully he gets a chance, but it does feel like at the very best scenario, Shiloh's going to end up on a practice squad of somebody's team. Wouldn't it be something if he and his brother were both on the practice squad to start the season? That'd be funny. All right, let's end with a ode to Bob Uecker, the Hall of Famer and legendary announcer who, of course, passed away last year, was honored at the Brewers game yesterday. Bob Costas was there for a celebration of life. So were Hall of Famers Robin Yount, former Brewer, George Brett, Kansas City Royal Hall of Famer Ted Simmons, the owner, Mark Anastasio, also Bud Selig, the owner. And they all wore special numbers with their jerseys, did the Brewers. And on the back of the jerseys, it said Ueck, U-E-C-K. And also special baseballs were in play yesterday. Uecker, arguably one of the single greatest announcers in the history of the game, had a long private battle, health battle, which wasn't revealed until he passed away last year. And I thought a really nice gesture there from the Brewers, and very fortunate in my day when the Brewers used to go on the road and Uecker used to travel on the road, had several opportunities to be around Bob Uecker, have dinner with Bob Uecker in the press box, and get a chance to meet him and get to know him a little bit. Really funny guy, as you would imagine, being in comedies like Major League and Mr. Belvedere and everything else. Great gesture yesterday by the Brewers. All right, that'll do it for our show today. Thanks to all of our great guests here on the program, including Justin Perry talking Major League Baseball, also Donnie Rightside from the early line on the show, and Roger Hoover from the Alabama Crimson Tide Radio Network, and also Vinny Iyer from Sporting News. We'll be back on the show tomorrow, and we'll have our first of what will be many weekly segments with Paul Stone talking college football, giving out picks here on the show all season long. He'll be on the show tomorrow, so looking forward to bringing Paul into the mix here at SportsGrid, and also have some other fun guests for you as well. So thanks again to our director, Luke, and for my producer, Frank. I'm Craig Mish. Our next edition of NewsWire will come your way tomorrow, which is Tuesday afternoon at 12 o'clock Eastern, so make sure you tune in there. And for those of you getting ready for your fantasy football drafts, stay tuned here to SportsGrid all week long. We have a 2-hour special previewing the upcoming fantasy football season, so check your local listings for that show as well. Hope you have a great rest of your day and night. See you back here Tuesday for our next edition of NewsWire.